Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Menzel. Friends and enemies call me Menas, and I'm the founder of Piccolo Podcasts and also the founder of Podshare. And we're going live on YouTube this evening because we've just launched Podshare in the last week, and I thought some of you might want some more information about it. Some of you might have some questions about it. So if you are watching on YouTube, you can put questions in the comments and we will answer them. If you're watching on Twitter and you make comments, we won't actually see them. So you'll have to go on YouTube to put in questions in the comments. Of course, though, if you just want to watch on Twitter and you've got any questions, you can email us through the website or directly after this presentation. But it's just going to be a very casual little chat about, why Podshare was started, answering a few frequently asked questions, and of course, fielding anything you want to ask about. But I want to sort of lay out why I started Podshare, and that's the first reason is because I've been podcasting since 2013. I've been running a cricket podcast called Cricket Unfiltered. And I know how challenging it is for independent podcasts to monetize and connect with sponsors. But conversely, I also know from an advertiser's point of view that if you advertise on the right podcast, you can get way more value for your advertising spend. There are just so many surveys out there at the moment that back up the fact that podcast advertising is incredibly effective. So, why is it then in Australia you've got all these great podcasters and you've got businesses that obviously want to advertise and make money and generate sales? So why not put them together on a platform where all types of shows, but especially smaller independent shows, can connect with advertisers, both small and large, to get a better result for both the podcasters who work really hard on their shows and would like obviously to get some revenue from that, but then for the advertisers to get more bang for their buck. And one thing, one of the, I guess, ethics or the ethos behind Podshare is that all types of shows and all types of advertisers should be able to use the platform. So, for example, if you're a small local business, if you were to find sort of the right podcast in your area or the right podcast in your demographic, then you could get some incredibly effective advertising in podcasts through this platform. And from a podcaster point of view, Podshare is a great showcase for your show. And obviously, as founders of the platform, we'll be working really hard to bring advertisers and businesses to the platform to use it. But the first stage is obviously getting podcasters to sign up because we can't actually entice advertisers until we've got some inventory to sell. So, the first stage of Podshare is really building up the podcasts on the website. And then what we'll be doing is we'll be looking to actually bundle some of the shows together in different packages, whether that's demographically, perhaps you've got a sport podcast that is appealing to males, 25 to 55. So perhaps we'll bundle you with other shows in that same ilk. So the first stage is attracting podcasters to use the site, and then we're going to launch a massive campaign to bring advertisers of all sizes to the website. First question is, there is no cost to sign up. It's a free sign up. It's only a commission. You only pay when you sell ads. So there's no harm in signing up and to see how it goes. You don't have to. It's not exclusive. So if you've got a sponsor who you want to sell more ads, or if you working with a company and you want to have another option for attracting advertisers, Podshare can do that. So it's not exclusive and there's no cost to sign up. All we recommend is that you have at least 10 episodes released, and we recommend you have 200 listeners or more. But that's not saying you can't sign up if you have less, but 200 listeners is a good sort of starting point. But if you're a smaller show, sign up even if you've got 100 listeners. And if you want to reach out to me, Piccolo Podcast, to discuss ways of growing your show, then more than happy to help with that, because I want to see podcasters succeed, because I love the medium. I love the fact that the barrier to entry of podcasts is not as high as some other media. So you can get people who are super passionate about what they podcast about, producing these shows, whether that's at home or with friends, even in even more professional shows. But we want to cater to all of them, and we want you to be able to make some money from your show. So even if you're a small show, don't be put off. Sign up. And we'll be running seminars through Piccolo Podcasts and Podshare about how to grow your show. So that's the first thing. And then the main thing is, unlocking the value of your niche audience. That is going to be the trick, because if you add host-read ads into your show, they can get very good results. So if we can unlock the value in your niche audience, then everybody wins, because you will get paid some money for your hard work and the advertisers will see the results. At the moment, we're really focusing on host-read ads. Of course, we can sell dynamic ads. It just depends on what hosting platform you are on. And with that, to join Podshare, you need to be on an IAB compliant or at least certified podcasting host. That way, the statistics and the listening figures, we can look at them and they know that they're quite reliable. Now, in the FAQs on Podshare, there is a list of the IAB certified hosts, and it's the main ones. Most of you will be on those hosts already. And that is just so we can have some confidence in the numbers you're giving us. Now, the commission for ads is we take 30% of the revenue from the ad sales. Now, I know a lot of other podcast hosts, it's a 50-50 split where the podcast host would take 50% and then the podcaster takes 50%. Ours is a little lower at 30%. And some of you might be thinking that's still a big cut of our ad revenue. But the fact is, to make Podshare viable, we need to take 30%, because we want to cater to all shows, small and large. So some of the ad sales may be quite small, but not to the podcaster, but so that's why we're taking 30%, because we want the platform to survive. We want to be able to cater to all sizes of podcasts and networks. And for advertisers, there's a 15% charge on top of your ad spend. So if you buy $100 worth of ads, it's $115. And that's and advertisers have to sign up to the platform to use it. Again, no fees to sign up, no commitment. But that's how the automated ordering process will work. And basically, if you're a podcaster and you receive an offer, so basically from an advertiser's point of view, you jump on the website and you can see what's available for each show. So you could have a pre-roll ad, which is a host-read ad before the show. Then you could have a mid-roll ad, which is a host-read ad in the middle of the show, or a post-roll ad, which is a host-read ad at the end of the show. And also, we want to offer total show sponsorship. So you could ask for, Cricket Unfiltered, my show, brought to you by a particular brand, and you could put their branding on your socials and on your logo. And that actually is a way of getting more value if you have a larger network outside the show. So perhaps you have a podcast, but you have a really strong Instagram page with 10,000 followers, and you have a YouTube channel. You can factor all that in when you price your show sponsorship. So that is a really good way. If you've worked really hard to build up a little podcast world where you've got your show, strong socials, you might be doing clips, then you can factor that in to your costing of the show sponsorship, because there obviously is good value in that. And then also we'll be offering product unboxings, product reviews, all those types of things. Again, super targeted niche audiences will love this. If you've got a product that you will know will resonate with the audience of this podcast, the advertiser gets great bang for their buck, and the podcaster again can unbox the product. They can charge for that. And with all of these ads, you set the rates as a podcaster. Now, podcasting, the actual podcast ads, the pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll, we recommend between $25 and $60 per 1,000 listeners. So again, if you have a smaller audience, we'll be bundling you together with other shows, and then the money will be divided up as to how many listeners you have. That's the sort of rates. But then if you have a really robust, supportive audience that gets behind your sponsors, you can set the rates higher. I would recommend starting on the lower end of the maybe between $25 and $60 per 1,000, and that's for each ad in your show. So that's the sort of what we're recommending rate wise. Once we build up the platform, we'll be reaching out to advertising agencies, advertisers, all types of avenues to bring people to the platform. So they're the main things about the show. So it's all going to be automated. So the way the process works is you list your show as a podcaster, and we've sent out some information on how to do that. But basically, you set up your account, and then you go into the dashboard, and you can set up all your podcasts. So if you have more than one podcast, you still only need one account. And then what happens is you'll set up your show with the ads you're making available. So that could be, as I said, pre-roll, mid-roll, post-roll. Then you will have the show sponsorship, and then you might have unboxings. That'll be listed on Podshare. Then an advertiser will make a request what he'd like to buy advertising wise from your podcast. That'll come to you on the platform. Then you either accept, or you don't have to take an advertiser if you're not happy with the product, or you don't want to represent a certain brand. There's no obligation. You reject the ad, and but otherwise, then if you accept the ad, you will generate an invoice from the platform within the chat between you and the advertiser. The advertiser then pays the ads via Stripe into our account, which we hold in escrow until the ads are broadcast. When the ads are broadcast, you need to send in a live link with a time code to the host read ads, and it needs to be a live link. It can't be an audio file, because the advertiser will want to see the podcast on Spotify or on Apple. So you just need to send in one of those links, and then once that's verified, then the funds are released to the podcaster via bank transfer. We'll also be able to set you up as a podcaster on Stripe, so you'll be able to receive the funds. Got a question here from Sandy K. Are you able to help advise on rates? Yes, we are. We're able to help and advise on any element of the process. As I said, I want to see the podcasting industry and podcasters thrive in Australia. So, happy to chat, whether it's on Zoom or you want to send in an email. But happy to advise on rates. As I said, the standard rates are between 25 and 60. But then when it gets into show sponsorship, as I said, you're going to have to sort of try and put a value on your complete reach. That's how that'll work. When you're signing up for Podshare and listing your podcast, it has all types of information. So obviously the general information. It'll also have what apps you're on. So as you would know, being a podcaster, there's 20 apps. So you can list all the apps you're on, and then it has all types of different information to put in there. And the fields that you have to fill out are an asterisk. And when you give us listening figures, we do ask for verification that you have to generate a report from your podcast host and send that to us. We will be collaborating with podcast hosts as the platform develops. But so to sign up, you do have to verify your figures with a report from your podcast host. And then there's all types of information that you can put in there: demographic information, gender, all types of stuff. Put in what you can. Spotify is a great resource for getting those types of figures, gender, and all that type of thing of who your listeners are. So if you're not on Spotify for podcasters, sign up to that and you claim your podcast, and then you can see a lot of that demographic information. Of course, geographical areas, if you've got a particular geographical area, definitely put that in your podcast description. Um, but yeah, that's the sign up process. We Podshare has to approve all um, podcasts before they go live. So if you put it in Podshare, put in the statistics, we'll verify the stats, we'll check your listing, and then the podcast will go live on Podshare. And that's really how it works. I think over time, the platform will grow and become more robust, and more advertisers will see the benefit to it. But the advertising spend in America has gone from 400 million last year to over $1 billion this year. So advertisers want to advertise on podcasts. So we want to make it easy for them. We want to make it easy for the everyday podcaster to monetize, and that's why Podshare has started. So that's mainly why we jumped on tonight, just to give a quick overview of what Podshare is about. As I said, I'm founder of Piccolo Podcasts and Podshare, so I know it from both sides. I know it from what it's like to be a podcaster, what it's like to be a podcast producer, and I've done several branded podcasts and worked with advertisers. So I sort of know the full picture, and Podshare is trying to connect us all together in an environment where really everyone benefits. And the whole thing about Podshare is once more and more podcasters come to it, it'll be easy for an advertiser to use the platform and see really good value for their advertising dollar. Sandy K, a question: is there one platform that aggregates total listeners, or do you need to try and get figures from each platform? So, Sandy, yes, usually your podcast host will aggregate them for you. So, for example, I use Omni Studio for my podcast, and then in the back end, it will have all the figures together from all the platforms. So it just depends what podcast host you're with. But then you can go on to Spotify and see who your listeners are there. You can go on to Apple Podcast Connect, and you can see who's listening on Apple. But yes, usually your podcast host will aggregate your total listeners together. Well, great question, Sandy. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for tuning into this information session on Podshare. I'm Andrew Menzel. I run Piccolo Podcasts with Holly Mitchell. So we'll be your, advisors. Will be here to help over the next little while as Podshare gets up and running. But thanks for your interest in the platform, and we'll be back soon.